This is KUGAN CASSIUS for IFL TV in association with MTK Global, at the headquarters of Mr. Frank Warren here, looking rather tanned. Caught the sun well.
Been on sunbed.
So have I. So have I, Frank. So have
Yeah,
I.
but you got trapped on it.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've been away for a while, have you?
No, I did a little week.
Yeah.
That was it, a little break.
Get it in while you can.
Yeah, we've got a very busy time coming up.
I know, it's going to be non-stop, relentless, so yeah.
Thank God, looking forward to it.
Okay, well, we're obviously going to start with, the heavyweight fight.
Yeah.
Everyone is talking about in Fury and Wilder. We're still waiting for confirmation of a date and a venue.
Yeah.
Well, is there a delay, or why haven't we had this yet?
There is a delay. What we're doing, we've had to work out a mutual date for the TV companies, and obviously negotiating with venues. There's quite a few venues that want the fight, and people who are working in the States with Al Heyman and Shelley Finkel, they're working on that. So that's pretty much imminent. The fight's done. That's all I need people to worry about. That fight is done. Tyson's confirmed it. Deontay's confirmed it. The fight is on. Don't worry about that. It's not the end of the world for it not to be us giving a date. And I'm not going to be giving a date until we have the proper press conference with them all here. They'll come over here for a press conference, and then we'll go out to the States, to various cities, to obviously sell the fight.
Obviously, since you said that the fight was on after Belfast night with Frampton and Fury, there were some rumours that there were some stumbling blocks to the fight. Even Fury come out and said, look, this is all rubbish, or whatever people were saying, or speculation that the fight is still
First
happening.
of all, the fighters announced the fight was on in the ring. That's what happened. If you look back at it, that's what happened. And I confirmed this. I said we'll be announcing the date the following week. But unfortunately, that's not been able to be the case. The fight is on. The date is being finalised, as I've just said. And of course, a lot of people have come out. For example, Matchroom, Hearn's come out saying that why that Tyson shouldn't be fighting. It's too soon. That's why it won't be on. You can take his word for it. It won't be on, and all this sort of stuff. But the fight is on, and he would say that, wouldn't he? He's the same fellow who turned around and said that Tyson was asking to fight bums, and he didn't want to give him bums. He wanted to give him proper warm-up. He wanted to give him proper warm-up fights, as he said, or proper fights before he fought Joshua, and including those warm-ups with Tony Bellew and Dylan White. So he sort of labelled them as warm-ups for Tyson, which may be the case. But anyway, the fact of the matter is the fight is on, and that's the end of it. It doesn't matter what he says, doesn't matter what anybody says, doesn't matter what Dylan White says in their dreams and whatever. It's on. Dylan White fought Derek Chisora. Really good fight for the fans to watch. There was nothing in that fight. Could have gone either way. Tyson Fury took Derek Chisora in his last fight he fought him absolutely to school and stopped him. That's the difference in class we're talking about. The fights that matter, the fight that matters, the heavyweight fight that matters is on, and we'll be doing the press conference fairly soon, and everybody's going to know what the date is. But in the meantime, it is on.
SkySports.com put an article out about Tyson Fury not having his licence for the US, saying there was, again, speculation that could be a stumbling block while the fight isn't
It's the same group, isn't it? It's the same group. It's News Corp, it's The Sun, it's the TalkSports, misinformation they're giving people. And I know the kid who wrote that, he's running that site. I wouldn't let him run a bath. The fact of the matter is, the kid who wrote that on there, did he pick up the phone and ask the boxing board of control of Povetkin's licence yet? Well, he's not. Or he certainly wasn't up until a couple of days ago. Is Billy Joe Saunders licensed to fight in the States against Andrade yet? No, he's not. Has he made an application for a licence yet? No, he hasn't. Because that's how boxing is. That's all done the week of the fight. You provide all the medical certificates, it's all put there. That's how boxing works. They'll all be licensed unless they've got medical problems. All of those fighters will be licensed. So it's total misinformation.
But obviously you can't apply for a licence if
Unless
you don't
you've got
know.
the venue.
No, but if you don't know which state, fights in, whether it's over the West Coast or the East Coast.
So he's ringing venue, he's ringing athletic commissions. But it doesn't. They obviously don't understand how boxing works. That's how boxing works. That's how licences and so forth are granted. You speak to the boxing board of control, they'll tell you. I'd say that probably 99% of the boxers who come to fight in the UK don't get their licence till the week of the fight. That's how it works, because that's when they provide all their medical information and so forth. They can't be licensed unless they're medically clear. So that's it. So again, it's misinformation that they've been putting out there, and that's where it is.
Frank, can you talk to me about, I know you've spoken about this, I think you spoke about this on TalkSport, but what actually was your involvement in raising the funds for the 50 million? We are, because I haven't spoke to you about this, so I wanted to ask you about it. No. Helping Shelley Finkel and Wilder's team raise the funds for the 50 million, and also the involvement of BT Sport as well. Sure. Can you talk to me about that?
Right, it's pretty simple. Shelley and I, we work together. We got, Willie Hutchinson, for example, is with us. Okay, he manages him. So he fights. I speak to Shelley, I speak to him once, sometimes twice a day. He obviously represents, he was representing Wilder, and he's obviously speaking to, Wilder's promoter is Al Heyman. And the bottom line was that he was asking me, what sort of money do I think BT would pay for that fight? Because he can't pick up the phone and go and speak to Sky, can he? Sky's Barney Francis deals with Hearn. They're putting a rival bid in. They're making a bid. They're not going to pick up the phone to Sky and say, how much money will you pay us? Because they'll pick the phone up and tell Eddie Hearn, Shelley Finkel's just been on, asked him how much we'll get. So that's number one. They were putting a bid in for a fight to buy all the rights for that fight. Not to saying, look, we're offering you 50 million and you've got Sky TV. They were offering 50 million total buyout to sell the fight wherever they wanted to sell it. We had discussions with Shelley, I had discussions with BT, how much money we felt that fight would generate, would it be a pay-per-view fight, etc. And we told them what the number we thought it would be. The same as I would pick up the phone maybe to him or Bob Aaron if I'm bidding for a fight in the States and say to him, look, A's fighting B, how much money do you think the American fighter will generate? And that's how I'll put together my purse bid. It's nothing unusual. So that's how it came about. That's how I knew what the number is, and when we see what it was, that's how it came about. They were made that offer, end of story. That offer was not, and I certainly never said, the money what was put in was predicated, and that offer was made to them, 50 million plus 30, predicating that they owned all the rights to sell them. Mate, sold them to Sky. Sky may have paid more money than BT, but they had an idea what sort of money would be generated from a pay-per-view. That's how it came about. So that's it. It's as simplistic as that.
Because obviously in an interview I did with Eddie Hearn recently, he said, about his words, it's bollocks, talking about Shelley Finkel's offer, because they know that AJ's contracted obviously to fight on Sky Sports.
Well, what happens if a fight goes to purse bids and somebody wins the purse bid?
Good question.
What happens then? What's he going to do? Vacate the titles? No one said it shouldn't go on Sky Sports. They were buying the rights. They may well have sold it to Sky Sports. You can't have it always. You can't say, first of all, they didn't have an offer. Now they're saying they've got an offer, but they can't take the offer because he's due to fight on Sky Sports. That's a big shift. I mean, his dad, and you was with him a couple of weeks ago, weren't you, when he was fishing? He said he doesn't even want the fight. He don't care if it happens for 2 years. In fact, he don't care if he ever fights him for 10 years. And I know what's going on there. I know Barry Hearn. Barry Hearn did the same thing with Chris Eubanks years ago. And remember, a lot of you guys who watch this, and it's nothing, I wish I was young. You're young, you don't know some of the background of this. Years and years ago, Barry Hearn promoted Chris Eubanks. Chris Eubanks never fought any big name fighter outside of the UK. Never fought anybody. Never fought Michael Nunn, never fought Tony, never fought any of those guys. They kept him all away from them. He had some tough fights, certainly in the UK, and they were quite iconic British fights against Nigel Benn. He fought Steve Collins, Michael Watson. So those fights were quite iconic for the British, but he never fought the tough American fight. He never fought Michael Nunn, never fought any of them, because Barry Hearn didn't want it. Barry Hearn then did a deal with Sky TV in the early days of Sky TV to take to Eubank, if I remember rightly, to have, I think it was either 8 or 10 fights in 1 year. In 1 year. And he was going to take him around on a world tour. That world tour encompassed Scotland, Wales, England and South Africa. That's as far as it went. And the opponents, a lot of them were pretty, say, average, the least. Which you would be if you was fighting you're supposed to be having 8 or 12 fights in a year or whatever it was, 10 fights. Sam Chisholm dumped that deal. He cut that deal away. The deal was done by Kelvin McKenzie when he was at Sky in those days. Sam Chisholm, he came and took over, dumped that and got rid of them. And I wound up being at Sky. But the bottom line of it was, that's where Barry Hearn's head is. You know why? He's an accountant. Of course he's got in his head, Anthony Joshua fights, sells 70,000, 80,000 tickets if he's fighting, anybody. Could be anybody in the world. He thinks they're going to generate that. What do they want to risk that for? Fighting a live guy. Of course they've done. That's their mentality. I get that. Barry Hearn knows that. I'm sure at the end of the day he's told his boy that's what the position is. And Barry, out of his own mouth, said, I do not want him to fight Wilder. I don't care if he doesn't fight Wilder. All we care about is making him rich. Well, of course boxers got to earn money. Of course they've got to generate income from themselves. It's a dangerous sport. But at the end of the day, don't the fans want to see the best fights? Want to see the best fighting the best? Eventually making them happen. Not if we don't care if it don't happen in 10 years or in 2 years down the line. Is Anthony Joshua and Wilder going to be around in 2 years' time? Who knows? There's a lot of good young heavyweights coming through. So that's the bottom line. All they keep doing with that, keep changing their story. The story is they would offered $50 million for the fight. They kept all the rights, the Americans, and $30 million rematch if he lost. That was what the deal was. That was the deal. 1,000,000%, that was the deal. And then forget about what his contracts are with other stations and that. He said, Anthony Joshua, I'll fight Wilder for $50 million. That's what he said, and they offered the $50 million in writing. And Al Heyman, that was the other thing, that we want proof of funds. Where's the money? See what Al Heyman's just announced the deal he's announced? It's the richest deal in boxing he's just announced. The money coming in. This is Al Heyman, who can't afford, all they're saying, can he afford to pay this money? I mean, come on now. Pathetic.
Frank, one of the kind of issues that, from Shelley Finkel's side, when they were negotiating a potential fight with Anthony Joshua was, they said that Matt from Hearn's side hadn't announced or gave them a date or a venue. Eddie Hearn brought up that this fight has been made without having a date or a venue, as in Wilder.
But we're in agreement where we're at. Yeah. Look, Eddie Hearn can say all what he likes. Who gives a shit what Eddie Hearn says? It's garbage. That fight's on. It will go on this year. We'll be announcing it when we want to announce it, not when Eddie Hearn wants to announce it. The fight is on. Eddie Hearn said we're negotiating to fight Wilder. I told you months before that it will never happen. I told you on record he'll fight Povetkin. Is that right?
Is that right? You said that in an interview.
Categorically said that a long time before. I said, forget all this talk. He's going to fight Povetkin. I knew that. Everyone in the business knew it. They don't want to fight Wilder. End of story. Who cares what they're saying? Who cares about what he thinks about our fight? He shouldn't be worried about it. I'm actually talking. You're only asked. I'm answering and responding to your questions. It makes me think like I'm keeping on about them. You're asking me. I don't give a shit about Wilder fighting Joshua. I have no interest. All I'm interested in is my man Tyson Fury fighting him, and that fight's on. The biggest fight in heavyweight boxing is on. The two guys who've got the balls to fight each other, it is on. They are fighting. In the meantime, Anthony Joshua has got a fight against Povetkin. That's where they're at. So he's in no position to talk about what we're doing. He should worry about what he's doing. He needs to sell his tickets because it's not sold out. It's not the 10-minute sellout like it normally is, because a lot of these secondary sites have been shut down now. Ticketmaster have closed down sites. They can't do that anymore. And, obviously, I know they're giving tickets away. We've seen the deals. I know JD Sport. You go to JD Sport, you get 4 tickets. If you pass on a tweet and so forth, we've seen it. We know that. I know that they're asking radio stations to give tickets away. So don't worry about what we're doing. Worry about what you're doing. Worry about their show. They shouldn't be worried about our show. Our show's a proper fight, and it's on. And listen, the two fighters are not saying it's on, are they? They're saying it's on. The two guys that matter are saying the fight's on, and it is on.
When do you expect that we'll actually get that kind of confirmation? Next week, Frank, possibly?
Well, it's going on before the end of the year.
Yeah.
And we'll be announcing when we're doing our press conferences, when we want to announce it. I'm not to anybody else's agenda, to our agenda, when it suits us to do it at the most proper and convenient time. We've just come out of the holiday period. haven't we? Just
No, but a couple of weeks ago you said that it would possibly
but
within
you're
10 days.
You're asking me the same question, and I told you, I'm just giving the answer a few questions ago.
Yeah, no, okay.
What are you worried about? What, do you think it's not on?
No, I believe it firmly
Tell me,
is
do
on.
you think it's on?
No, I believe
so
that
what
this
does
fight
it
happened.
matter about when we're going to have a press conference?
People are impatient. They want to kind of...
Impatient for what? It's on. The fighters have said it's on. I'm saying it's on. Shelley Finkel's saying it on.
I want to book my flights, Frank, yeah.
Well, I want to book my flights. I mean, we all want to book our flights. But the venue and the venue that's being negotiated, it's been waited to confirm it can be there. It's got to go where the best place is. This is a mega fight, and it's got to go to the place where it generates the most income. And that's the position. It's as simple as that. Stop worrying about it. You don't need to lose sleep. You'll be the first to know.
I'm talking for other people as well. I'm not just talking for myself, but
I hear
Frank,
what you're saying.
I firmly believe the fight's on. But
Yeah, well, I can assure you it is on. Have you spoken to Tyson?
yes, I have.
What does he say?
No, I know. Frank.
What does he say? Tell me. I want to hear it from your mouth.
Yes.
What does he say?
Yes, the conversations I have with Tyson, the fight is on. Yeah,
Right.
I have no doubt about that.
Have you spoken to Wilder?
No, I'm not going to say.
Have you spoken to Shelley Finkel?
No.
What are they saying?
But Frank, I'm taking it word from what you say anyway. So
Like I told you, Povetkin and Joshua was on. Remember, I told you that. Like I told you that was on. This is on.
I said, I just want to make sure they got that sweet wherever that is. That's all, Frank.
Yeah.
That's all that is.
You've got a sweet, mate. Don't worry about it. I've got you a nice tent on the roof.
That's it. That'll do me. Can we get an update on when Frampton versus Warrington is being announced?
Well, because that's a pay-per-view fight, the same as Tyson and Deontay fights. So we've got to do them with a decent gap between them. And the problem we had with that was that we originally wanted to put that fight on in November, and there was talk of us getting the fight on in November with Deontay and Tyson, but now that's being worked on, so we can't have one going on within 7 days of each other. So that's moved back. That will go on before the end of the year, and I believe we're going to have a press conference. I believe it'll either be next week or the week after. But within 2 weeks, you know. But 1,000,000% that fight will be on this year.
Okay. Rumours that fight could end up north in Manchester. Can you speculate on that?
Well, the problem is, again, we've got, it's the time of year. I would like, in an ideal world, to put it in a stadium, a football stadium, but we can't do that, so we'll go where it generates the most income for the boxers.
But we're ruling out their cities,
Oh,
aren't
it'll
we?
be a neutral venue.
Yes.
Yeah, neutral venue, yeah.
Okay. Definitely look forward to that. When do you announce that, Frank? As in the date and the venue, rather.
Yeah.
So Daniel Dubois has been out sparring Povetkin.
Yeah, he has.
I think I read a story the other day where Joe Joyce had declined the sparring with
I don't know.
Povetkin
Really?
because of
I've got no idea.
patriotic conflicts maybe. But
I'm not worried about that nonsense. This is, at the end of the day, it's a business about patriotic conflicts. I mean, we're going to try and tar Daniel being unpatriotic. I mean, the bottom line of it is he's going out to spar with a guy. He's in the business of getting experience, and he's sparring with him, and he's done extremely well with him, as we've all seen.
what feedback have you had back from
Very
there?
good
How he's getting on?
Very good feedback. Yeah.
Holding his
Ask
own?
him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he holds his own with everybody.
Yeah.
So listen, he's a kid. He's a 20-year-old heavyweight. Yeah, he's holding his own. More than holding his own. More than holding his own.
Bringing back any secrets?
For who? Ask him, Harry. You should ask him what he thinks. Ask him how he went out there. I mean, he's an honest kid.
He's obviously
He's
sparred
a
Joshua.
decent kid. He's honest.
as well,
I mean, he told you, it took ages for him to get out of him that he knocked over Joshua in sparring, didn't it? It took ages. He didn't want to say it, but it got to a stage where people were saying it was untrue. So it was what it was. But he's a kid who's learning. He's a very good fighter. It's good experience for him. Fantastic experience for him. When you think that Povetkin's been there, done it, and he's going in with a guy who holds a version of the world titles. So I'm pleased for him. That's what it's about, boxing, learning.
There was a press conference a couple of weeks ago in Boston where your man Billy Joe Saunders obviously announced his fight with Andrade on the 20th of October. A lot of people thought that you would have been there for that.
Yeah.
You wasn't, but I'm assuming you'll be the one at the fight week.
Yeah, well, I mean, they can't give me just a few days' notice and say be there. I was at a wedding, and that's you know, it was planned a long time before, so very unusual. I had press conferences on Fridays, so I couldn't get, if I'd had the press conference on a Thursday, I'd have got there and got back for the wedding, but I couldn't do it. So of course I'll be there. You know, Bill's my man. I'm going to be there for him. You know, we speaking while he was out there, and I'll be there for the fight. Be there for my man. That's what the business is all about.
I think a lot of people are just curious to see what happens when you meet Eddie Hearn, Frank.
Well, what is going to happen? He's going to sit at a table. He's going to say that his man's going to beat my man. I'm going to sit there and say my man's going to beat his man.
But we've never seen that. That's all.
Sorry?
We've never seen you on a top table together. So
no, he'll try and bamboozle me with his boxing knowledge, and then we'll see where we go from there.
Okay. But yeah, Billy Joe Saunders, obviously we've seen constantly he's full in camp and he's...
Yeah, I see him on the plane going back.
Oh yeah, what did you make of that, Frank?
What am I to say?
Yeah, never fall asleep when Billy Joe's around. That's all I'm going to say
Well,
for that one. I've been there, so I know.
I've been there, well, I won't say no more.
I've been there. Okay, so show-wise coming up, obviously your next one now is the 6th of October.
Yeah, Leicester.
Leicester.
Great show.
Yeah.
Good fights.
Nicola Adams fighting for an interim title on that.
Title, yeah, she's on there. We've tried to get the champion, WBO champion, had been out of action for a long, long time. And eventually, I think they may have about the stripper, but she suddenly defended her title, come out of nowhere. So we've gone for the interim, which ensures that she gets the first crack. If she wins it, she gets the crack at the full title before the end of the year. So I'm pleased for her.
Obviously, everyone's looking forward to the Catterall and O'Hara Davies.
Yeah,
O'Hara Davies actually hasn't badmouthed Jack Catterall. I'm on for losing 150 after this. I'm going to have to have a word with Jack.
It's early days yet.
It's early days, I know, but he's kept
got
it.
a long way to go.
To be honest with you, by the end of it, it'd probably be worth 150 quid for him to have kept his mouth shut for that long anyway.
That's gone well. I mean, the tickets are going really well, and I'm pleased with it. Yeah.
See Daniel Dubois against Kevin Johnson.
It's a good fight for him, as I say.
Yeah.
It's good for him to be out there with Povetkin and sparring and doing what he's doing, and that gives him good preparation for that fight. And that's a good fight for him as well. You know, it's a guy who's, you know, he's, say how it is, he's, you know, he's been round the block, but he's a good, tough competitor, and Daniel will learn from it. That's what Daniel Dubois is all about, learning.
Next weekend, the big one from Las Vegas, Canelo and Golovkin, Frank, and obviously BT Sports' first pay-per-view event as well. So, I mean, how do you think that's going to go, as in terms of, not the fight first of all, you know, with the pay-per-view with BT?
Well, I think it would do well. You know, we did the first one on Box Nation back then when they bought it. BT have bought it this time, but I think it'd do well. I mean, we've got 3 really good pay-per-views coming up on BT. I mean, you know, when you think about it, you've got the best rematch, the best fight out there between Canelo and Golovkin. Everyone's looking forward to that. You get an interesting fight. You've got Tyson, Deontay, best heavyweight fight out there by far. And then you've got the best, in my opinion, the best domestic fight against 2 fighters top of their game in Josh and Cole. So BT are certainly leading the way as far as that's concerned. The Canelo-Golovkin fight, I fancy Golovkin. I fancied him for the first fight. I fancied him for the second fight. It's going to be interesting to see, you know, how what Canelo's going to be like when he gets in the ring. I mean, he's been suspended, as we know, but I mean that's not like he's been suspended and out of the ring for a long time. He only fights twice a year. But it's going to be interesting to see where he's at. You know, bearing in mind what he was suspended for juicing, what he's going to be like without that. So I think it's going to be quite an interesting fight to watch, and I'm looking forward to it.
You're back in Golovkin though.
Well, I don't see, you know, he's going to have to go and trade with Golovkin. He's not going to beat Golovkin. He was backing off him the last fight, wasn't he? I mean, he you know, the latter rounds, or halfway, at least half of the fight, he was backing off him, which I was a bit surprised at. You don't beat Golovkin by backing off him unless you're a superb boxer. And I like Canelo. He's an excellent fighter, but I think with Golovkin you've got to try, and it's a very difficult thing to do. You've got to try and back him up. You've got to slow him down, and I don't know where he can stand toe to toe with him to do that.
So, Frank, BT will have 3 pay-per-views sort of for the back end of 2018. speculation is Fury's fight might wind up in December. So could there be 2 pay-per-views in the same month then?
It might be.
Yeah.
It may be. We'll see what happens. It may be, but they won't be within a week of each other.
Yeah. But big fights either way, Frank. So we're looking forward.
Massive fights, aren't they? Yeah, that's what it's all about. You know, that and pay-per-view. As much as people hate it, that's the only way you can make big fights. And remember, the model in this country is what I brought in. You know, all those years ago with Tyson and Frank Bruno. That was the first proper boxing pay-per-view on Sky back then. But that enabled us to make the fights and make them happen, make these big fights occur. And so that's where we are. And you know, other people have benefit. I mean, I was reading the other week in Boxing News about I'm copying somebody's model. I think somehow I've got the history. Maybe they're not old enough to know what went on back in those days.
Have you read the latest boxing news, Frank?
What's this?
Did you read this? Read something about Vernon Van Riel.
Yeah, I've put him on a couple of times.
Yeah, I know. Apparently the first black man to come out to music in boxing, is that
What, in UK?
I believe so, is that?
Nah, total rubbish. First of all, when I got into boxing, there was no music. No fighters come out to music. Albert Hall, Wembley were the only 2 venues in London. Cartel were running the boxing at the time. They put all the big shows on. And boxers would walk into the ring to no music. There was no music. And the main event would go into a fanfare. Like, you know, they might have a trumpeter there or an old scratchy fanfare ring. And then they would glove up in the ring. They weren't even, you know, they weren't like those, you know, like fighters now come out, they're gloved up and straight, you know, they're more or less ready to go. They would glove up in the ring, pick their gloves and glove up in the ring. And there was no music. When I got involved, I can remember Ray Clark, who was the General Secretary of the Boxing Board of Control, sitting at ringside on his ears like that when we had the music going. And like, what is this? Because, you know, older generation, a bit like me, I'm an old fart now, aren't I? But he'd be sitting there holding his ears and not all of them, and they didn't like it. But we brought the music in. So Vernon Van Riel, the first fighter that ever come into black fighter that I recollect bringing in to the ring some music would have been Isaac Hussein. He was a heavyweight. He was a former ABA champion. He also boxed under the name of Shaka. He was the first heavyweight. Prior to that, when I'd done my shows outside of the Board's jurisdiction, there was music. Do
you remember what song it was? Or is that a bit...
I'll tell you what it was. He probably came into Ain't No Stopping Us Now. Okay. McFadden Whitehead.
Okay.
It wasn't Sweet Caroline.
It wasn't Sweet Caroline.
We brought. Now you want to talk Sweet Caroline? We brought Sweet Caroline. Sweet Caroline. What happened was, as boxing went on, remember it's live. It wasn't like there was no live TV then. You know, boxing was recorded. When we started doing live shows, we brought the live shows, and when I said ITV, because it's all ITV live shows, so they'd come in the music into the ring. That was it. Then when it went across to Sky, we had more airtime to fill, because obviously it's a subscription channel. Boxing weren't on for an hour and a half, which it was in those days. You only had one fight, maybe that was it. We had airtime, so you'd have big gaps in between people talking. So sometimes the crowd would get restless because the main, you know, you have to say, right, the main event's going to be on at 10 o'clock, and you have a big gap in between. So we'd put the music on. So we'd put on the old favourites, Sweet Caroline. Mike Goodall used to put one, you know, Mike who puts around it, Sweet Caroline.
So he'd be the best person to ask where that trend started.
I'll tell you where it come from. I asked him. Sweet Caroline used to go on. Living Next Door to Alice, because these are the things that they sat next, you know, the crowd sung along to. Living Next Door to Alice and a Monkeys song. And the Living Next Door to Alice, we had to stop, because when it got to the chorus, you know, Living Next Door to Alice, then all the crowd would all shout out, who the is Alice? Yeah, so we had to stop that going out over the air. So that's what happened. So ask Mike Goodall and he would confirm that. So that's not a new invention. By the way, Sweet Caroline's a hit out of the 70s, so it's not like it was just come out. Okay. In fact, when Barry Hearn got into boxing, he got into boxing promoting. He first promoted with Terry Lawless. Matchroom Terry Lawless. He got together. Lawless left the cartel, left Mickey Duff and Jarvis Astaire and I think Mike Barrett at the time, and he went off and done a thing with Hearn. And they had a press conference when they got in saying, we're not having any music. We don't want it. We're going back to the spit and sawdust days. We don't want the music. And like within, I don't know, 2 shows they were back. They were putting the music on. But that's so that there was no that we, you know, there's music in some of the shows in the States. And as I said, we used to have a lot of music when we done the unlicensed shows.
Warrington's ring walks really kind of is one of them, isn't it, where you're enjoying the atmosphere, but you're worried about a pint going in the air. But it's brilliant to watch.
Like going there, you go to go out to some of the go out to LA, where the Mexican fought fighting the Brits, any British fighter, and you're standing. You didn't get a lager thrown over you. They used a cup, but it wasn't lager, same colour.
All right, yeah.
Pouring out, so I mean, you don't know half of it. You know, it's. You know, you've got to create an atmosphere, and obviously for the fans, you try and give them an experience on the night. But nothing changes at the end of the day. Whether there's music or there isn't music, it's about fights, and it's the fights that matter, and making the fights that the fans want to see.
But the fights have become more events now, haven't they? Over the last.
Well, they're always events. You tell me Nassim Hamid's fights weren't an event.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, they were more events. That was an event. Ricky Hatton's fights weren't an event. Joe Kawasaki's fights weren't an event.
Yeah, fair point.
Frank Bruno's fights weren't an event. You go back over, there were always events. You go back you go back to Wales. Colin Jones' fights weren't an event. Sold out. Birmingham, him against, we sold out, I think, in about 3 days when he fought Don Curry. Sold out like that. Remember, in those days, there was no big venues. That was at the NEC when they opened up there. I think they opened up, it was about 10, 12,000 seats. There was no big venue. Newcastle never had a big venue. Liverpool never had a big venue. Manchester never had a big venue. None of those did. You know, those venues were built around the sort of 80s, early 90s. So they weren't none. But all those guys, all those fights were massive, big fights. You know, I was reading about Freddie Mills in the boxing news today, about, you know, the nonsense about being murdered by Mylansky or some bullshit. But I was reading, when he thought it was an event, fighters, you know, Henry Cooper fought, it was an event. They were events. No one's, you know, somebody just invented. Those events haven't just been invented. They were big things. They were big happenings.
Frank Anthony Yard, who I believe is going to have a date confirmed soon in October.
Yeah. Monday we're announcing his opponent.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, we were working on it. We had a few setbacks with the opponents that we wanted. One of them got beat the weekend, but we're working on it, and hopefully on Monday we'll announce him.
Okay. 20th of October, is that correct?
Brentford. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else you could reveal maybe on the bill for that?
We made application for Johnny Garton and Kokorin.
Okay.
It's a good fight. There's a couple of other good fights on there as well.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Is there anything else you'd kind of like to add?
I just thought, talking about boxing, I thought they've done a fantastic deal, haven't they? Al Heyman in the States, with Fox, and he's got Fox Showtime. Yeah, it's massive deal. Boxing's flying at the moment.
On all angles.
Yeah, I mean, it's great for the game. It's fantastic. I mean, they ain't got to go out and find them. They've got the customers. You know, they're going to get the exposure. They've got the exposure. You know, when we started Box Nation, our opposition was, don't fight in there, no one will ever see you, and so forth. We had all that rubbish going down. And it's a bit like now, they've got to do the same thing in the States with what they're doing with their launch. They're starting from scratch. They've got to generate subscribers, and that's going to be quite interesting to see how that develops. But it's great because it's making everything so competitive.
I know you've touched on this previously, Frank, but how would you kind of describe the current future of Box Nation at the moment?
Excellent. It's doing really well. Look, you think of the fighters that are on there. They've just done a new deal with Bob Arum, which was announced recently. So you've got the best fighters in the world: Lomachenko, Terence Crawford, all those guys, all of those fights coming through. Got a deal with some of the Bella's kids. They're about to announce another big deal, which I was hoping they was going to do last week. They've got some great fights on it, and they're doing a lot of domestic stuff now.
With MTK Global as well.
Yeah, they've got some of those fighters on there, some of those good young fighters coming in. It's good. I mean, you're getting to see great fights. You know, it's a separate entity. I'm not Box Nation. I'm a separate entity. You know, Queensberry is a separate entity than Box Nation. They've done a deal with BT. That's who their deals with. It's like, you know, Hearn has done a deal with Sky. Naturally, we've got done a deal with Sky, which is a big pay-per-view. And over in the States, they're now going out there saying pay-per-view is a dead model, and they're now trying to do their thing out there and building something. They're going to see how difficult that is, like how difficult it was for us to build Box Nation. So it's, you know, Box Nation's in a very healthy state. They're still bringing some really exciting fights and more fights. There'll be some more, even better fights coming through.
Obviously, Danny Garcia and Sean Porter is
There you
live
go.
on
There
Box
you
Nation this
go.
week.
How bad is that?
No. I think when
And it's all about who Lomachenko's going to fight next out of those guys. I mean, you know, they're great fights. It would never see light of day. Would never been seen if it wasn't for that.
I think kind of
You see, Maurice Hooker is going to be fighting on Box Nation in his next fight. That's going to be on there. Bob Arum's, you know, won the purse bids for that, so you'll see that on Box Nation.
I think we're kind of obviously over the years kind of seeing these kind of fights quite regularly and on Box Nation, the overseas fights on Box Nation. I think there was a couple of fights over the last couple of months weren't shown that people kind of expect.
Well, they're not, but you can't keep saying people expect. You know, we couldn't have made it any plainer. We announced what our deal was. Our deal's been announced. Queensbury's shows have an exclusive deal with BT. End of story. That's what it is. Box Nation continues to do what it's been doing. That is it. You know, no one's done anything underhanded. We've said how we are. Otherwise, we could never be making these fights that we're making. You know, Tyson Fury's fight wouldn't be happening without being able to do it on proper pay-per-view. That's where we're at.
So, you've said previously that all kind of the fighters that were there at the press conference recently at BT about 2 or 3 months ago, they're exclusive to BT.
They're exclusive. All of Queensbury's exclusive to BT.
Right. So that could be any Queensbury fighter.
Yeah. Well, no, that Queensbury show.
Yeah.
Who knows if there's a fight? There may be a fight that winds up on Box Nation. I don't know. But all those fighters, Queensbury is exclusive to BT. End of story. Which is exactly what was said at the press conference, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So nothing's changed.
But you're kind of, say you had kind of a small hall fight night, that couldn't end up on Box Nation then?
I don't know. It's up to BT if they haven't got the airtime to do it. We'll see.
Okay. All right, Frank, have you, like I said, you got anything else you want to
What else am I going to
say?
No, I think we're about it, aren't we? We've done everything we had to do. Anything you can think of?
No, I think, we've gone over most things. There's probably are things, but I can't think to this minute, so...
Can the audience think of anything?
People don't realise.
That fella over there. No, I think we're all done, aren't we?
What I did want to actually ask you about...
Go and ask me.
Billy Joe and Deontay Wilder. Obviously, they sorted out their little differences.
They've sorted it out, so you've asked me.
But did you find it a little bit humorous or not?
I don't know what happened. I didn't see
Well,
it.
he allegedly threw a chicken at him. Allegedly, I was used because I haven't actually seen it, but apparently threw a half a lemon and herb at him.
What?
Lemon and herb spiced chicken. Apparently, that's what it was.
Well, maybe he's a hungry fighter, or maybe I've got no idea.
But regardless of whatever, yeah, they kissed and made up.
There you go. That's
what it's all about.
That's all that matters, isn't it? Yeah.
Throw a chicken one day,
That's
have a hug and a kiss the next day.
That's, that's how it is, isn't it, sometimes?
Have you ever thrown a chicken at anyone?
Frozen one.
Oh dear. All right, Frank Warren, thank you very much for talking to IFL TV, and like I said, we'll look forward to. There's going to be a lot of press conferences, announcements,
and
very soon coming up. All exciting.
Very exciting. And Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury is on.
It's on.
It's on.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, my son.